Hello, my name is Ripley. Welcome to the video.
Heyo, what's up schmucks? How you doing? I hope you're doing pretty good. So before we get properly started, I want to let you know that recently I finally got to work with the one and only Film Fella. We got together to discuss WandaVision. We discussed our thoughts on the show itself, but we also got into a pretty good discussion about the MCU in general. We split up our conversation into two videos. Part 1 will be here on my channel, and Part 2 is over on his channel. If you want to check those out, my video will be linked at the end of this video, and Film Fella's channel and video are going to be linked down below. Other than that, the only other thing I have to plug is the G Words podcast, which is the podcast that I sometimes do with my friends. It was really consistent for a few weeks. We had weekly episodes, but now I can't get anybody to get into a Discord call with me, so it's kind of on a fucking break, but eventually we'll get back on our horse and we'll keep on riding. That was a terrible analogy. I'm freestyling right now. It doesn't matter. Let's just continue this video because my brain is melting. With Godzilla vs. Kong right on the horizon, I felt it appropriate to revisit the Monsterverse movies in preparation. The Monsterverse consists of Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. So we're going to be looking at the three of these movies leading up to Godzilla vs. Kong. Also, as a reminder, or announcement I suppose, I also revisited and looked in depth at Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. So feel free to check those out and hear me lose my shit over Batman vs. Superman. But enough of that, let's discuss Godzilla 2014. Our movie begins with a pretty dope opening credit sequence that gives a delicious taste of humanity's relationship with Godzilla, and it features some excellent music. The score in this movie is really good in my opinion, and it comes courtesy of... Yeah, I ain't even gonna attempt that. So we're swiftly introduced to Ken Watanabe as Dr. Shirazawa and the lady who fucked the fish that one time as his little sidekick. Yeah, I know it's Sally Hawkins. Shut up. None of the humans are interesting in this movie. However, of them, Ken Watanabe is probably the most interesting, and to balance that out, he's teamed up with Sally Hawkins' character, who is one of the least interesting. But because none of these characters are memorable, I'm going to call them by their real names or their more notable roles. So Ken Watanabe and Fishfucker find the skeleton of a dead Godzilla who died from spores implanted in his chest. So one of these little spores decided to dip and is now out in the world. Next up, we're showing Bryan Cranston and his family as he freaks out about some weird shit going down and how it could have a negative effect at his power plant. I really like the little scenes we get between Walter White and his wife. It's obviously setting us up for a tragedy, but I do buy that these two are a happily married couple. So this lady and her buddies go into the reactor, but it springs a leak and now they gotta get the fuck out. This is a genuinely suspenseful and eventually heartbreaking scene, and Bryan Cranston sells it really well. It's so fucked up that he has to look at his wife and her team right after he sealed the door and their fate. That's heartbreaking, man. Some years later, we cut to Bryan Cranston's son Quicksilver as he comes home to his family from military deployment. I find it so weird that Aaron Taylor Johnson and my wife Elizabeth Olsen played a married couple a year before they were siblings. That said, if I remember correctly, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch have a very close relationship in the comics. Yeah. Anywho, these two are very good in this movie, and their chemistry is also very good, but these aren't interesting characters, which sucks because we're stuck with Quicksilver for the rest of the movie now. So Quicksilver's called to help bail out Bryan Cranston, who's been detained in Japan, and with a little reluctance, he's off. He gets there, he bails his dad out, and they return to Bryan Cranston's home as they discuss the possibility of leaving for America and moving on with their lives.
This has to stop.
You know I did everything I could. You know that, right?
Let me take you home. Come home with me. I got a little boy who's desperate to see his grandpa. We could leave tomorrow.
I think the dialogue is notably good in this movie. I don't normally expect much from a kaiju film, and if my memory serves, the dialogue isn't particularly good in Kong or King of the Monsters, but here, I really enjoy it. The only drawback is that it's really good dialogue, but it's said between very uninteresting characters. These two head to a quarantine zone, explore for a bit, and then get detained and held at a containment site run by the organization Monarch. Monarch is a group dedicated to finding and understanding the monsters that exist in this universe, and as of now, they're studying this one, which is called a massive unidentified terrestrial organism, or MUTO for short. Heading this operation is Ken Watanabe and Fishfucker, and they're very interested in Bryan Cranston's research, but before they can get too interested, shit starts to go down, because the MUTO decided to wake up and is trying to break out. And I really like that this movie featured new monsters as the antagonist, opposed to using old ones that we'd already seen, and I think the MUTOs are very cool. Sure, it would have been cool if we had like a Baragon, or a Biolante, or a Titanosaurus, everybody's favorite Godzilla villain. But I do appreciate that this movie decided to not do that. Instead, start us off with something new and creative, opposed to just using something that Toho had already done. I'll probably bring this up once or twice, but why is this movie so fucking dark? Like, I don't mean tonally dark, I mean I can't see shit. What the fuck, movie? Was it that hard to increase the brightness even a little bit? In all the chaos, Walter White ends up taking a tumble and he dies a little while later. I think he should have just died in the walkway collapse because they drag this out as if he's gonna survive and be in this movie more, but he's not. I also remember when this movie came out, one of the biggest criticisms was that Bryan Cranston wasn't in the rest of this movie, but that never bothered me, mainly because I don't think he'd be interesting in the long run. He's interesting short term, but I think if he were the protagonist, there's not much for him to do, whereas with a soldier, you can put him in the midst of monster conflict and it makes sense, whereas a freelance scientist being in the middle of a Godzilla versus monster fight, that doesn't make any sense. So Ken Watanabe and his crew team up with the military to track down the Muto. I really like that this admiral guy is a nice guy and he's not a cookie cutter douchebag. I don't know why I like that, but I do. So Ken Watanabe and the Fish Kisser give Quicksilver the rundown on what the creatures are in this universe and how they work. The idea is that the quote-quote monsters are just animals, and this lens for Godzilla and the other creatures remains consistent throughout these movies. The idea that these monsters are just animals native to the planet longer than humans is really interesting, and Godzilla's role in the ecosystem being to maintain balance is a really creative idea, because using this, you can get Godzilla to fight almost anything, and it will make sense.
Nature has an order, a power to restore balance. I believe he is that power.
So Ken Watanabe doesn't need Quicksilver anymore, and he sends him on his merry way. So he tries to give my wife, Elizabeth Olsen, a call. But why is Wanda's cell phone ringer not on full blast? She's expecting calls regarding her missing husband, who isn't me for some reason, and that shit's on vibrate? Come on, man, that's kinda dumb. Quicksilver heads to Hawaii to try and get back to his family, but he ends up having a run-in with his kid. I really like this moment, but I wish there was something like this earlier in the movie to give the audience a reason to like Quicksilver. Instead, we're only now learning that he's a good person in the second act of the movie. So because the Muto is causing a ruckus, Godzilla is on his way to set shit straight. I like that Godzilla goes under the ships here, opposed to how he just plows through them in the trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong. Godzilla's arrival to Hawaii is amazing. It starts slow as we see the effects of him making landfall. Then we slowly start to see glimpses of him, and then it all culminates in an epic panning shot and a spine-tingling roar. Amazing. This was Godzilla's first big screen appearance for American audiences since like 1999, so this moment had to be epic, and I think it was. Also, Godzilla showing up killed so many people. Like so many people. This movie is annoying with how much teasing it does in regard to the monsters, because it all ends with a fight that you can barely see because this movie is just too goddamn dark. So the Muto heads for the mainland and Godzilla gives chase, which leads to this really cool shot of Godzilla getting a military escort. I love that. The military learns that there's another Muto spore out there, which means there's another Muto, and it's being kept in a closet where the military dumps a bunch of nuclear waste. But I find it hard to believe that the US government would take a presumed dead spore of a creature nobody understands and then keep it pretty much next to Las Vegas. That seems unwise, but given the people that we let run this country, yeah, I guess that does make sense, actually. So the female Muto escapes and starts destroying the city, and the military unveils their master plan. They intend to take a nuke and kill all the creatures 12 miles offshore, but Ken Watanabe doesn't approve. I like that this movie didn't devolve into,
oh, we need to save this creature. Oh no, the big bad army man wants to kill it. Eee!
even though another Monsterverse movie does exactly that. Here, it's a scientist who is convinced that his theories are true and Godzilla is the ultimate higher power, opposed to a military man who needs to save civilians and sees Godzilla and the Mutos as immediate threats.
Godzilla may be the answer. I believe he's here to restore balance. He can defeat them.
And what? We just stand by and watch? I'm sorry, Doctor. I can't take that risk.
But instead of taking that and opening up a cliche subplot, it's two mature adults who disagree with one another talking about their thoughts on the issue. I really like that. So after transporting the nuke to San Francisco, we get my personal favorite scene in the movie, and that is this sequence on the Golden Gate Bridge. The city is being evacuated, but the military is setting up and getting ready for Godzilla and the Mutos. And when Godzilla shows up, all hell breaks loose. This scene takes place during the day, so it's easy to see. The CGI is outstanding, and it's filmed in a way that perfectly highlights how massive Godzilla is. I really like the part where Godzilla's spines catch the missiles and he unintentionally saves all these people. I also like where Godzilla says, "Man, fuck all y'all," and just slams through the bridge. That was cool. So the the Muto abducts the nuke, brings it to his wife, and they leave it in the city. The only problem is it's armed to blow, so that's not very good. We get to see a proper look at how insanely big the female Muto is. We get to see a wet Elizabeth Olsen. We get more monster fights teased. We get a halo drop as the military men are going to reclaim the nuke, and then we get a big monster fight. Godzilla fighting the Mutos is a really good and entertaining fight, except for the fact that I can't see it. But other than that, yeah, it's really good. I like the way the Mutos tag team and work together to bring down the superior alpha predator. It makes sense they'd whip out the combo moves against something pretty much born to kill them. From their point of view, they're a husband and wife power couple fighting for the future of their family against something that wants to wipe them out of existence. Quicksilver sees all the Muto eggs and says,
"Man, fuck them kids,"
and then blows them all up. The female Muto is about to eat him when something starts to glow. Hell yeah. Godzilla's atomic breath is amazing. When I saw this in 2014, I really thought they weren't going to include this because it wasn't in any of the marketing, and I don't remember seeing it on any of the toys, but it served for a fantastic moment and a genuine surprise even as a lifelong fan. The military boys try to get the bomb out of the city as the female Muto gives chase, and the male Muto sticks around to beef with Godzilla. I love how Godzilla just tail whips the shit out of this dude and he gets impaled, but by doing this, it drops a building on Godzilla and it takes him down and out. I do really like this shot of Quicksilver watching Godzilla's face slowly fade away into the smoke. That's really cool. So the Muto murks these guys, but Quicksilver manages to get the bomb heading out of the city, but not without attracting the attention of the Muto. She's about to end it all when Godzilla shows up to save the day. Godzilla's fatality on the Muto is outstanding, and his victory roar is beautiful. I also really like that this started the reoccurrence of each Monsterverse movie, ending with a cool and creative round-ending kill. Also, this is a real Dark Knight Rises situation where the bomb 1000% did not get far enough away before going off. Come morning and the city is emerging. Quicksilver finds his son and Wanda, and the two embrace each other as good siblings should. But just outside the stadium, Godzilla's waking up. I love this shot of Ken Watanabe as he watches Godzilla leave. Look at that. He's so cute. Godzilla stops to do a final roar, and this genuinely gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. I don't know why, but it does. I also really appreciate that this movie doesn't drag out in its conclusion. The fight ends, Quicksilver sees his family, Godzilla walks into the ocean, we're done. So Godzilla, yeah, it's good. I think it is a really solid and really well put together movie. It doesn't have any blinding issues, but it's also nothing to write home about. The lack of good monster action was definitely a reasonable criticism to have, and something Kong and King of the Monsters definitely tried to address. But I don't hate the lack of Godzilla stuff in this movie. Despite Godzilla not being seen that much in this movie, his presence is felt throughout, and when he does show up, it's always really cool to watch, except for the fact that this movie is so fucking dark and I can't see it. I'm trying to watch a big kaiju monster movie, but what good is that when I can't see the monsters? Ultimately, I think this was a great introduction to this iteration of Godzilla and the larger universe he inhabits. It also serves as a good homecoming movie for Godzilla, as this was his first appearance in American cinemas since that really terrible one with Matthew Broderick in New York City that we're not going to talk about because it's bad. Later this week, we're going to look at Kong Skull Island, but until then, thank you for watching and have a fantastic day.
This concludes the video.